was never the urgent one. You answered when everything ended. There's a strange kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being ignored. It comes from being answered. Every time. Just never first. At first, I told myself it didn't matter. People get busy. Life happens. Work, family, errands, unexpected things. I understood all of that because I had my own life too. But after a while, you start noticing patterns you never wanted to notice. The message I sent at lunch would get a reply after dinner. The photo I shared would stay unopened while your online status appeared and disappeared throughout the day. Sometimes I would see your story update before my message got a response. And the worst part was that none of it was dramatic enough to complain about. You always replied. That was the problem. You replied just enough to make me feel guilty for feeling hurt. So I stopped asking why. Instead, I became someone who quietly watched. Someone who checked the screen without realizing it. Someone who opened the chat, saw the last message was still mine, locked the phone, then opened it again 2 minutes later as if something would magically change. The embarrassing part is how ordinary it looked. Me standing in line for coffee. Me pretending to watch a movie. Me brushing my teeth before bed. A quick glance at the notification bar. Nothing. Then another glance. Still nothing. It wasn't even the waiting that hurt anymore. It was what the waiting was teaching me. I learned that there are people who think about you when they finally have time. And there are people who make time because they thought about you. The difference is tiny when you explain it. Huge when you live it. I never wanted constant attention. I never needed immediate replies. What I wanted was the feeling that somewhere in your day, I naturally appeared. Not as a task. Not as a notification. Not as something to get back to later. Just someone you wanted to talk to. But little things started changing. You notice how fast someone replies to everyone else. How they can send 5 messages in a group chat while yours sits there. How they have time to post, scroll, react, share, laugh. Then finally arrive at your conversation hours later with a simple, "Sorry, just saw this." And maybe they really did. Maybe they didn't. After a while, the reason stops mattering. Because the feeling stays the same. You start shrinking yourself. Writing shorter texts. Removing extra details. Deleting the second paragraph before sending. Replacing what you wanted to say with "never mind." Not because you're angry. Because you're tired of feeling like your words entered a waiting room. I think that's what nobody talks about. Being someone's last priority doesn't always feel like rejection. Sometimes it feels like self-doubt. You begin questioning things that used to feel obvious. Am I talking too much? Am I annoying? Did I say something wrong? Should I stop texting first? The saddest part is that the other person often has no idea this is happening. They don't see the tiny disappointments. The moments where you picked up your phone with hope and put it down with silence. The moments where you decided not to share something funny because you already knew the conversation would probably be over before they answered. The moments where good news sat unsent because somehow telling them didn't feel exciting anymore. Not because you cared less. Because caring alone became exhausting. One night, I remember staring at our chat after sending a message. Nothing important. Just something small that happened during my day. The kind of thing people only share when someone matters. I waited. Then got distracted. Then slept. The reply came the next morning. 3 words. Perfectly polite. Completely empty. And for some reason, that hurt more than being ignored. Because that's when I realized I wasn't waiting for a message anymore. I was waiting for evidence. Evidence that I still occupied a place in your mind the way you occupied mine. And evidence never came. Not in a fight. Not in a goodbye. Just in hundreds of tiny moments where everything else seemed to happen before me. Maybe that's why some distances feel heavier than endings. An ending is at least honest. This kind of fading happens quietly. One delayed reply. Then another. Then another. Until one day you stop checking your phone every few minutes. Not because you're healed. Because you've finally learned the answer before the notification arrives. You were never forgotten. Just saved for later. And somehow, that felt lonelier.